Hi everyone, Professor Hank here. So today we're going to look at some of the characteristics of Java. We'll talk about the differences between a primitive data type and an object. We'll talk about what it means for an object to be immutable. We'll look at the null keyword, and we'll also touch a little bit on what a wrapper class is. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so Java is an object-oriented programming language, which means that it uses these things called objects to represent data and provide methods that are related to them. So an example of this would be the scanner class, a string, or an array. Now, Java also has primitives. And so a primitive is a data type such as an int, a double, a char, boolean. Now, these are nowhere near as sophisticated as objects. When you use a primitive type, you're just asking Java to set aside a little bit of memory to hold one specific piece of data, whereas an object can hold multiple pieces of data and the methods that you would use to operate on that data. So for example, if I were to do something like this, if I were to say int x equals 5, int is a primitive and there is 4 bytes that is set aside to hold that integer 5. But if I was to do something like this, int r equals new int, and then put a size here, like say 5, this is creating an array object, which is assigned to an array reference. So this is actually two things that are getting created, the reference and an object. So with this object, this array, we can do things like ask it how big it is, right? So we could do something like r.length, because this is part of the array that's wrapped up in the array object, so we can access that. Another thing we can do is we can create strings. So I could do something like this. I could say string first, and I could say something like equals new string Hank. So that creates my reference, a string reference named first, and a string object, which I've assigned to it the string Hank, right? So two things created there. Another thing I can do, and this is an explicit way of creating the object. Another thing I can do is I can just do something like this and use my, last name. So this is an implicit way of doing it. Now, both of these statements do a similar thing. They both create a reference and a string object. It's just that this is an explicit way of doing it, and this is an implicit way of doing it. Looks different, but does the same thing. Now, it can be the case where you might want to create a reference, but you're not ready for the object yet. So that's where the null keyword comes in. So I could do something like this. I could say string color, and if I'm not ready to create an object yet, I'm not just going to leave it alone. I'm going to assign to it null. And that is a special value that's basically indicating that there's no object created yet or assigned yet. So it's an explicit way of saying, no, this is just a reference. This is what I want. This is not a mistake. So that takes us to this concept of mutability. When something is mutable, that means that it can be changed. But when something's immutable, that means that it can't change. So strings are immutable. Strings are immutable. That means they can't mutate, they can't change. So let's say I wanted to convert that Hank that I stored in that string object all to uppercase. So there is a method in string objects called toUpperCase. So what this does is it creates a whole new string containing all uppercase characters, but it's completely separate. It's a whole new string object that's separate from the original. So what does that mean? Well, let's take a look. If I try to print out the string, you're going to see that it hasn't changed. Okay, because the original is unchangeable, because string objects are immutable. So what toUpperCase does is it returns a brand new object containing a new string that's all uppercase. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the original object here with the new one that's created and returned by toUpperCase. So I'm going to do that is I'm just going to say first is set to first.toUpperCase. So the original string object containing the lowercase Hank is going to be replaced with the new string object containing the uppercase Hank. So you can see that's what happened right there. Another example would be the replace method, which allows me to find substrings and replace them. So I'll do last equals last, and I will replace the S, the lowercase s in my last name with an uppercase version. And so that's going to create last dot replace. So that's going to create a whole new object with this part of the string replaced by an uppercase version of it. And then that is going to be assigned to that last reference. And so then when I print that out, you're going to see that it actually has an uppercase s and not the lowercase version. So let's check that out. So there you go. So the big idea here to keep in mind is that strings are immutable. They can't change. So when we're using these types of methods here, what we're doing is we're creating a new version, a completely new object that's replacing the old one. So now let's touch briefly on wrapper classes. So primitives such as integers or doubles or booleans, they can't be assigned null because they're not references, okay? They don't hold the memory address of objects. You can't assign null to them. But what we can do is we can use these things called wrapper classes, and there are wrapper classes for integers, booleans, characters, doubles, and longs. And so they have the entire name of the primitive. In this case, we're going to do a wrapper class for an int, so integer, uppercase I, and then I can name it just like before, and this is a reference for an integer object. So if I want to assign null to that, I can, or I can use one of the methods inside of the integer object to create an integer object that I can assign to the reference. So for example, there's the value of method that I can use. And so then that allows me to use methods such as equals with that wrapper class, and so that I can compare the contents of that integer object, which is 5, against an integer 5 here, right? Against an integer literal. So then I could do system.out.println, and this is going to show us true because the integer stored inside that object for that wrapper class is 5. So we can see that there's the true right here. Now, there are other methods that belong to the integer wrapper class as well, and one of those is parse int. So we can ask it or use that to convert a string representation of an integer into an actual integer. So I could do something like this. I could say int x is set to integer dot parse int, and then pass a string as an argument. So maybe the string that contains the characters 215. And then from there, I could, do something else with that integer. So I could do something like, x plus equals 2, and then print out my x. So I could do arithmetic operations with it now. So print out my x, and then you're going to see that that says 217. So let's see that. So there's the 217. And then I can use another method of the integer wrapper class to go back the other directions. So let's say that I wanted to create a string version of that 217. So then I could just say something like string number equals integer dot toString, and then I'll pass as an argument, the x variable. And then I could use that string, which has been returned, right? Then I can use that string in any way I would like. So then I could do something like this, right? I could say the number is, and then I could, add that string here, do some concatenation or something like that. So it can go in both directions. And so you'll see that we've got our, the number is 217 right there. All right, so that's everything that I wanted to talk to you about in this video. So what did we cover? We talked about what an object is. We talked about what a primitive is. We compared and contrast them. We learned about the null keyword. We learned about what it means for an object to be immutable. And we also touched briefly on wrapper classes and how we can use those in different ways. As usual, if you're a student of mine, you have questions about any of the content in this video or in the videos in our courses, feel free to contact me via Canvas email or stop by our Zoom office hours. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.